Okay. Grandpa's interview part 2. You want to say the date?
The date is September 22nd? No,
24.
23rd, 24th.
Yeah, that was a test and you
24th,
passed.
2022.
There you go. Okay. I'm trying to remember where we were last time. I think we were talking about your experience in the Air Force.
Oh.
And you were stationed in Japan?
Yes.
Yes. With your brother? Or close to your brother, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me find that part. Okay, well, I guess, how did you get out of the Air Force and why? How did you decide that?
Well, I enlisted for 4 years.
Uh-huh.
When I left Japan, I was assigned to Forbes base at Topeka.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really a big adjustment for me because, well, in Japan I was kind of in charge of commissary accounting, and when I went to Forbes, I went to the base accounting office in headquarters squadron, and they had too many people there. They had a lot of civilians working there, and some airmen, some GIs. And so I was assigned to some lady, I think, and she didn't have anything for me to do, so she had me draw a double underline under the last year's books. She explained that they were all closed and everything, and all the numbers were in there. All I had to do was draw a double line. You know, in accounting, if you draw a double underline, that's the end, that's the finish.
Mm-hmm.
So she had me doing that, and I did that for a while until I got bored. So I started adding numbers in my head. These were big numbers, but they were even, like, 400,000 and 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I started adding numbers in my head, and they didn't add up. So I called her, and she called her boss, and he called his boss. Pretty soon there was a big crowd around my desk, and they kind of elbowed me to the back of the room. And and they didn't have me draw any more lines after that.
What'd you do after that?
Well, I don't remember anything except that they had me mop floors and do things like that.
Aw.
And and the base accounting officer was a lieutenant, was an ROTC lieutenant, and the finance officer was an ROTC lieutenant. Those two guys combined didn't know what they were doing, and I was really antagonistic and caused trouble. But they needed a commissary accountant there at Forbes, and so I explained that I had had that experience, and so they made me the commissary accountant, and my office was in the commissary, but I was still assigned to the base accounting officer. So then I had something to do, and an auditor came in one day and said, "Well, you've exceeded your budget appropriations." And I argued with him. I said, "No, I haven't." But the disagreement was over some Twixes. In those days, before we had cell phones and internet, we had Twixes, TWXs.
What's that?
I don't know. Do you know what TWX stands for?
Is it a telegraph wire or it's a wire.
Yeah.
Like
So
a telegraph wire.
So we get those every day, changing the budget appropriation. And the dispute was over that. But he went up to the base controller, who was above the base accounting officer. He was a lieutenant colonel, I think. And he said that he called me one day and he said that I not only was going to get an early out, I was going to be court-martialed because I had exceeded that appropriation. And I didn't tell him, but at the time he told me that, I already had in my pocket an early out. I got an early out because that means they separated me before my 4 years was up so I could start the fall semester of college.
Oh, okay. You have to get that like approved?
Yeah. So somebody approved it. I don't know, everybody approved it, I guess. But I didn't tell him that. I just cleared the base and left.
My gosh. So nothing happened?
Nothing happened that I know of. I don't know what they ever did. But I didn't think I could be court-martialed because I was an enlisted man and there were officers that signed off on everything.
Right.
At any rate,
Oh.
that was my experience at Forbes.
And what made you want to enroll in school for the fall semester?
Well, I thought I ought to go to college.
Is that all?
Well, that 4 years in the Air Force kind of led me to believe that I'd do better with a college degree.
That makes sense. And how old were you at this point?
I was 22.
Wow.
I was 22, but I want to tell you another story.
Okay, please do.
When I was in high school, my brother Don and I were driving. I think we bought a power lawnmower, and we mowed lawns. And we were on one Saturday morning. We were coming home from mowing the lawn, and there was a lady who was mowing her lawn with an electric lawnmower, and she was laying on the ground. You could see the current going through her, and you could see the cord come out of the house, the electric cord, because it was an electric lawnmower, not a battery operated, but an electric.
Like plugs into the wall.
Yeah. So my brother Don, who really, before I even figured out what was going on, he was running into the house to unplug it. He unplugged it, and then we picked her up and helped her get up on the porch, and we laid her down on the porch. And by that time, then some women started coming over, and they kind of elbowed us to the back of the crowd. So we left. But she was visibly pregnant then. She was showing.
Oh my gosh.
And that child was born with no problems, we later learned. But that lady has never said anything to me about it. And I don't know if she ever said anything to Dawn about it.
Would you have appreciated a thank you note?
I don't know.
That's really cool.
Was it exciting?
Yeah. How much older is Dawn?
2 years older.
2 years. Were you guys buddies?
Not really.
No?
Not very much.
You were close with your older brother, right?
Yes, right.
What's his name?
John.
John. Were you close with anyone else?
Well, maybe Carl. No, not Carl. Nobody else. Well, Don and I did a lot of stuff together.
Okay.
When we'd go stay with an aunt or an uncle, usually Don and I would go. And Don would just enjoy that, and I'd get homesick.
Oh. How long would you stay with them?
How long was what?
Did you go stay with them?
Oh, just for the night or for the weekend.
Oh, okay. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. So you leave the Air Force. right?
Yeah.
You enroll in KU then?
Yeah, I enrolled in KU, and that guy told me that I was a freshman on probation.
Oh, because of your grades?
Yeah, because of my grades.
Right.
But in the first semester, I made good enough grades that I had enough grade points to be a junior. And so at mid-semester, I got into the business school at KU, and I majored in accounting. And I graduated before I graduated, I got married
Oh, yeah.
in September of 1957.
Okay. So you're in college at KU. How long were you there? Because you kind of skipped a grade, didn't you? Before you graduated?
Yeah. Well, I was there. Well, maybe I was only maybe a semester short.
Okay.
So I graduated in January of '59.
Where'd you live in Lawrence?
We didn't live in Lawrence. I lived in Topeka.
Okay.
When we married, we bought a house way out on the east side of Topeka on Cowns Street, Kouns.
You got married before you graduated?
Yes.
Okay.
And we bought this house. It was a one-bedroom house, and we paid $5,000 for it.
That's crazy.
And I think we borrowed the money from my dad.
Okay. So at KU, were you in a fraternity?
No.
And how'd you meet Grandma?
Well, a friend of mine in the Air Force, Walter Whithouse, married her sister Ann, and they introduced us. They lived in Topeka, and they and Carol went to Potter, where Carol went to high school, to meet a friend of theirs, but she wasn't at home. So Walter said, well, let's just go by Effingham, because I know this guy lives in Effingham. And it was a Sunday afternoon. I was just ready to go back to KU. And because I was living then in Lawrence,
Mm-hmm.
I had a room there.
Yeah. What was that like?
The room,
Yeah.
it was just a room.
Just a room?
Yeah, and I think maybe I shared a bath with a law student.
In just a house that you rented?
Pardon me?
In a house that you guys were renting?
Yes, but we just rented 2 rooms
Okay.
upstairs, and the lady that owned the house lived downstairs.
That's interesting.
And it was almost downtown. It was on Vermont Street. I think Vermont Street. Almost by the business district.
Okay. What kind of food were you eating?
Well, I'd have to eat out all the time.
You did?
Yes. So I would eat anything that was available.
You didn't cook for yourself?
No.
Okay. So you meet Grandma on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
You were ready to go back to Lawrence. And then did they just pull up? Like, is that how things work?
Yes, they did. And I think I was loading some stuff into my car. I had a car then, a 1954 Ford,
What color?
green, and it was a 4-door. It was a 4-door, wasn't it? 2-door. 2-door. And
Were you proud of that car?
well, no, it was just wheels.
Mm.
And let's see, then our first child was born.
Grandpa, you just skipped like 12 things.
I skipped what?
You didn't even say you got married yet.
Oh. We got married on September the 2nd, 1957.
Wait, I want way more details. Can you do like an impression of what your face looked like when they pulled up in the driveway that day?
Well, I don't know.
Was it like love at first sight? How'd you decide I want to date this girl or I want to marry this girl?
Well, I didn't. She was pretty. She was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so maybe I got her phone number from Walter. There's a story about Walter.
Okay.
Well, Walter started at college, but he didn't do well. So he got a job at the Pizza Hut. And that was before Pizza Hut was famous.
Okay.
That was, well, my introduction to pizzas was when I was in the basic training in the Air Force in San Francisco. There was a guy from Chicago. He said, let's get some pizza. And I said, what's pizza? He said, I'll show you.
How old were you?
Well, then I was 18.
Wow, you had never had pizza before?
No,
You didn't even know it existed.
right,
Did it blow you away?
yeah. So when Walter flunked out of college, he got a job at the Pizza Hut. And pizza was just getting started then, and I told Walter he ought to try to go to college because pizza was just a fad, it wouldn't last. But Walter ended up owning 2 or 3 Pizza Huts in Ohio. He made more money in a week than I did in a year.
Wow.
So where was I?
So you got grandma's phone number from Walter,
Yeah,
probably. And then did you guys date for a while?
yes,
What was that like?
well, I think maybe we double dated with Walter and Ann. And one time we went to Kansas City. The 4 of us went to Kansas City. And Walter's car broke down. And so we caught a bus to go back to Topeka.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the bus got out there east of Tonganoxie at Stranger Creek was flooded over the road. So we had to turn around. The bus had to turn around, go back, and go around another way to get to Topeka. I think we got to Topeka at daylight.
Oh my gosh. String of bad luck. What were you doing in Kansas City?
I think we went there maybe to buy a wedding dress for Ann,
Oh.
but I don't know. Carol would remember.
So you dated for a while. How long do you think you dated for before you proposed?
Well, we dated from about October till September. Oh, till I proposed? I don't know. Maybe I proposed, maybe we decided to get married maybe in April or May.
And you had met in, you said
Met in October.
October, okay. And did you propose to her?
I don't remember.
Do you think you got down on a knee?
No, I know I did not do that.
Did you ask for her dad's permission?
No, because their parents were separated,
Oh, yeah.
divorced. And I had not even met her father. I only met her father once when John was a baby. We took John to see her father and her stepmother. And that's the only time that I ever saw. I think maybe we went to his funeral too. Carol and I did.
Okay. Did you not have a good impression of him?
Well, I didn't even know him.
Right.
And I thought maybe that he, well, after that separation, after that divorce, they were terribly poor. They were just poor as church mice. And Nellie, her mother, got a teaching certificate so that she could teach school. So she taught at Alma and then at Tonganoxie and at Potter. And I don't think she got paid very much. So she had these two girls to support.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really poor. And I came along and I had a 1954 Ford.
Yeah.
But I think she had more money than I did.
Really? Why?
Well, I think she had some mutual funds or something.
Grandma did?
Yeah, maybe $2,000.
Okay. Do you want to move?
What?
Do you want to move into the shade?
No.
Okay. No big deal. So, you proposed. Do you think you said, hey, let's get married?
Probably.
So romantic. What's the most romantic thing you've done for her? Like, have you bought her flowers?
No. I don't think so.
Okay. So you get married. How was your wedding day?
Well, we were married at the Holy Name Church in Topeka at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And that was because the priest there, he said that the wedding will be at 8 o'clock. And I said, well, my people are all farmers. They'd have to get up at midnight to get the chores done to get in here at 8 o'clock. He said, well, we're not going to change our schedule just for your wedding. And, well,
That's not very nice.
no, Carol and her mother lived with Ann and her mother on Northwestern Street. And when she went to Holy Name, they said, well, you live north of the river, so you have to go over there to get married. So she went north of the river, and they said, no, even though the name of your street is Northwestern, it's really on the south side of the river. So you have to go back to Holy Name.
Oh my gosh.
So we went to Holy Name, and they finally agreed to marry us.
Wow. What'd you wear to your wedding?
I think I wore a white coat and
Ooh,
maybe a bow tie.
that's slick. Did you choose?
What?
Did you choose your outfit?
No, I think Carol did.
So how many people were at your wedding?
I don't know.
Oh, and
Probably some cousins and aunts and uncles and my parents and her mother and
who walked her down the aisle?
I don't know if anybody did. I don't know if that was done then.
Did you cry?
No. No. I think Don was my best man.
Okay. And your brothers were groomsmen?
I don't know if we had any groomsmen.
Really? Just a best man and a maid of honor?
I guess so.
And I bet Anne was the maid of honor?
Yes, I think so.
And then did you have a reception?
Well, we had kind of a lunch at some restaurant. Carol had to arrange and pay for all that.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, because her mother didn't have any money.
Right. And you didn't have any money?
And I didn't have any money.
Okay, so did you guys buy a house right away?
Yes, I think we bought that house as soon as we were married. Maybe even before we were married.
Okay, yeah. And then it was a 1 bed, 1 bath.
Yes.
Was there a basement?
No.
It was 1 story.
Yes.
What was it like? What was like your appliance situation?
Well, I guess we must have had a natural gas cook stove, and a refrigerator,
A washer and dryer,
and maybe we had a washing machine.
but no dryer.
I don't know if we had a dryer.
Did you have heat or air?
We had heat, no air conditioning.
And how? So, when Grandma had my dad, you guys lived in that house, right?
Yes.
And then, did she give birth in the hospital?
Yes.
Do you remember it?
St. Francis Hospital. Yes. It was a Sunday morning. It was June 15th. It was Father's Day. Yes. It's Father's Day, and so maybe at, 6 o'clock in the morning, we went to the hospital.
Were you
And-
nervous?
No,
Was Grandma nervous?
I don't know.
Did you guys talk a lot?
No. Well, I guess she was nervous, anxious.
Yeah. Okay. Were you in the room when he was born?
No.
Was that not standard back then?
No, that wasn't done in those days.
So then so what'd you do? You just sat outside and
Yes.
then the doctor came and got you?
Yes.
My gosh. That's crazy. And did you cry when you held your first son?
No.
When have you cried?
I don't remember. Maybe when I was a kid.
Okay. And when Grandma found out she was pregnant, were you so excited?
No.
Were you nervous? Like, how am I going to pay for this?
No. I don't think so. I don't think I worried as much then as I do now.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you feeling when she found out she was pregnant?
Well, nothing. I just thought, well, that's the way it goes. But I remember one time we needed a battery for the car,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a battery then cost maybe $12. So we went down to Sears, and we didn't have $12. So we went down to Sears and applied for a credit card. They said, well, who have you ever borrowed money from? And neither of us had ever borrowed money, except from my dad for that house.
Right.
And they said, well, if you've never borrowed money, then you don't have any credit experience. Anyhow, they gave us a credit card, a Sears credit card,
And that was your first.
and that's how we bought that battery.
Wow. And you got married and you were already, no. You got married, then graduated college,
Yes,
and then started working as an accountant.
yes,
And isn't there like a 2-year thing you were telling me about?
yes.
You want to explain that?
Well, to be certified, you have to do two things. You have to pass an examination, which then was a 2.5-day examination. And it is a witch with a capital B.
Really?
And not very many people pass it the first time.
Did you?
No. It's in 4 sections: law, theory, accounting, and tax, maybe.
Wow.
And I passed law the first time. But then when I did pass it, well, then in addition to that requirement, you have to work for 2 years in public accounting, which I did. And so 2 years after I graduated from school, I got certified. And so then Bob Hollis and I formed a partnership, and we did city audits and school district audits and hospital audits.
Wow.
And so then our practice grew, and we hired other people, and then Vanderveer became a partner. That's still the name of the firm now.
What is it now?
Hollis, Kuckelman, and Vanderveer.
So, when you needed to get that credit card to get a battery, were you working as an accountant already?
Yes.
And you just weren't making good
No,
money?
No. That was, we still lived in Topeka then. I was still a student then.
Oh, okay. That'd be tough. Like
Yeah.
almost no income, right?
Right. Well, I had a GI Bill,
Oh, yeah.
which paid for, well, most of, maybe I got $100 a month. Maybe when John was born, they increased it to $108 a month.
108.
Yeah. So he's worth $8.
Yeah. And then, so once you started working as an accountant, was it as hard to scrape by?
No. Well, when I started working, I think I started working for $2 an hour. And and I thought that we were just going to be rolling in money.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a big number for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe I told you this, but well, in those days, well, in January of 1959, there were only 2 accounting majors graduated from KU. Me and another guy.
Oh, cool.
And so, I mean, in those days, some companies would sign up to interview students, and nobody would even talk to them. So I accepted a job with a national accounting firm with Arthur Young,
Mm-hmm.
and I was ready to go to work for them in Kansas City, Missouri. But one of my instructors said he had a friend in Olathe that he would want me to talk to because he needed an accountant. I said, I've already got a job. And he said, well, all right, talk to this guy. So I agreed to talk to him, and then I changed. I went to work for Hollis instead of Arthur Young.
That we were talking about that in the car last weekend because we were talking about how if you had made a different decision,
Yeah.
your life could be completely different.
Right, everything would have changed.
Yeah. So that was a good gamble, right?
Right.
So once you got your license, so that was 2 years after you graduated, you just had one kid, or did you have more kids by then?
By then, I think Chris was born.
And what was that like? Did you experience any like first time parent stuff?
No.
You didn't change any diapers?
Well, I think so. I think I must have.
Yeah. And
Well, when we moved to Olathe, we rented half of a duplex.
uh-huh.
And then maybe 2 or 3 months later, the owner came and he wanted to sell that duplex. So we sold the house in Topeka and we bought the duplex. So then we owned half of it. We owned all of it, but we lived in half of it and rented the other half.
Is that a good choice for you guys? That worked
Yeah,
out?
it was all right. It's kind of a pain in the neck because sometimes the tenants wouldn't pay the rent.
Oh. So you got that because then you had 2 kids, right? You couldn't raise 2 kids in a 1-bedroom.
Right.
Where did my dad sleep? What is the 3 of you?
I think in a crib maybe.
In a crib, like in your bedroom?
Yeah.
So, Chris was born. Oh, I want to know what made you name your kids what you did. Like, John, is that because it's a family name?
I guess so, because my brother was named John, my dad was named John,
Yeah.
and Chris, I don't know where Chris came from.
You just liked it?
What?
You just liked it?
Yeah,
Or Grandma did?
I think so.
What about Carl?
Carl, I guess, was named because of my brother.
And Dean?
Dean was named after a friend of mine,
Oh, that's sweet.
Dean Moore.
Was Dean honored that you did that?
Dean was, yeah, I think so. Dean was just a straight arrow. He wouldn't dare to break any rules or do anything wrong.
Really?
When I told him that Dean had mooned the girls' gym class, he thought that was just the most funny thing. Here I was really worried about it. But Dean Moore wouldn't dare do that. But he was really delighted that Dean did.
Oh, so they kind of are like polar opposites, aren't
Yeah,
they?
right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you move into the duplex, you have a little bit more money, and you have Chris. And
Yeah.
then, how long after that is Dean born?
Well, maybe 18 months.
So you had some toddlers.
Yes.
How was that?
Well, it was easy for me because I could go to work, but
True.
Carol really worked hard.
Yeah. Was it fun to have sons to play with
It was, but not when they were that age, but
when they were
when
older?
they got older, it was really fun.
So then, did you move when Dean was born into a bigger house?
Yeah, we moved right after Dean was born into a 2-story house that we had built
Ah.
because this duplex had an extra lot with it.
Oh, okay, so you already own the land?
Yeah. So we had this house built. We lived there until Carl was born. And then we moved to where we live now.
Wow. Like right after Carl was born?
Yes.
How old were the other boys when Carl was born?
Well, let's see. Carl was born in '66, so John would have been 8 years old. Chris was maybe 6 or 7, and Dean was 5 or 6.
Were they excited to have a little brother?
I don't know. I don't remember. I doubt it.
So that house you built, was that a big deal?
Yeah.
And did Grandma get to pick out like certain stuff?
I guess so.
And then you moved into where you are now, right?
Right.
Okay, so what was it like to raise 4 boys, like as they got older?
Well, it was really a hoot. It was easier, I think, than raising 4 girls would have been.
Yeah.
And they were all okay, I think. They all went to school and didn't get into any serious trouble.
Good.
But, well, when we moved, reason we moved to where we live now, so that they could walk to St. Paul's,
Okay.
which they did. But St. Paul's didn't have kindergarten, so I think 2 or 3 of them went to Westview School, public school for
Oh.
kindergarten. But even then, they walked to school.
Did you have 2 cars?
No, I don't know when we got the second car.
So what were you driving at this point?
54 Ford.
Same one, the green one?
Yeah.
Okay. So you would leave for work and grandma would just be stuck at home with all
Yeah,
those kids?
right. Yes.
Oh my goodness. What was the biggest challenge for you guys raising 4 boys?
I don't know.
Were they chaotic?
No. No.
No. Did you guys play any games?
Oh yeah. When they got bigger, we played basketball in the driveway and played soccer in the backyard. No, volleyball.
Volleyball?
Volleyball.
And you played?
I think so.
Did grandma play?
No,
No. I bet that was fun.
it was fun. Well, the neighbors' kids would come.
Mm-hmm. And then did you eat dinner as a family every night?
Yes, we did. Except when they started working, sometimes they'd be working
Right.
during dinner time. But other than that, we'd try to eat dinner at the same time.
That's nice. Did you pray?
Yes.
And then what would you talk about over dinner?
Well, various things. And if there was an argument, my rule was that you could each talk for a minute or two, but while the other guy talked, you had to be quiet. And then each guy got a turn to talk.
You think that's why 3 of them are lawyers?
Maybe, maybe. I don't know. I don't know why 3 of them are lawyers.
I mean, I think you like to debate people. Did you do that with them when they were younger?
Yes. Yes.
I see that influence. Do you?
Yeah. Well, I think Carl really had an advantage.
Why is that?
Well, because he would hear, they talk some about school,
Uh-huh.
so he heard a lot about school before he even went to school.
Oh.
So I think he could talk economics in the first grade.
Oh my gosh. He learned from everybody else.
Yeah.
He's falling asleep over there. Okay. Did you guys have a meal that you ate frequently that Carol would cook that you really liked?
I don't know. She was a good cook.
Yeah?
Maybe meatloaf.
Okay. And she cooked dinner every night?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, well.
That's impressive.
And did laundry and drove the boys to ball games.
Oh, I skipped over when you got an air conditioner in your house.
Oh, I think we got in the new house next to the duplex, we got an air conditioner. Maybe we bought an air conditioner when Carol was pregnant with Dean. Dean was born in August, and an un-air conditioned house was
Oh
really
my
tough.
gosh. So you took that Sears credit card.
I think we had money then. I
Yeah.
think so. I don't think we even used a credit card until maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't know when. I don't know when I first used a credit card.
It's an well to get your $12 battery, but then you didn't touch one for a long time.
No.
So then when did you buy the farm?
Oh, maybe in 1970.
70?
Or maybe 75.
Okay. And what made you decide to buy land?
Well, I bought it as an inflation hedge because the interest rates were really high. The inflation rate was really high. And I told the realtor to find me the cheapest ground he could find. When he showed me this, I said, by God, you found it. It was an orchard then. There were 500 peach trees and 500 apple trees. And the guy and the couple that owned it, I think they inherited it from her mother. And there was an old house right out there where that big elm tree is. And they kind of took care of the orchard. They sold apples and peaches right here,
On the road?
right here at the house.
Wow.
But they didn't live here. They lived in Ottawa. And so then we bought it. And I bought it with a partner, Bill Wolf. Bill Wolf was a friend of mine. I told him I had no intention of buying it with him, but I told him about it, and so he wanted to look at it. So he came out and looked at it and said, yeah, let's buy that. So he and I together bought it. And then, so we'd come down here on Saturdays, but he ran a furniture store, so he had to work 7 days a week or 6 days a week. And his wife, I think, objected to that. And so he wanted to sell, so I bought his half.
What made you start wanting to like maintain it here?
Well, I think I came here on the weekends, just cut brush, and I bought a bulldozer.
Was that fun? That was
Yeah.
probably a fun day for your kids
Yeah.
too.
Well, so then it kind of turned into a campground when John moved here from Texas, and he and his friends started camping here.
Okay.
And that's when we put in faucets and electric plug-ins.
But otherwise, were there cattle?
Well, we just cash rented it.
Yeah. So, you bought the partner out. You were just coming on the weekends to clear brush and stuff. Did you make your boys help you?
You know, I didn't make them, but they did sometimes when they weren't working.
Mm-hmm. And did they like coming out here?
I guess so. Chris came out here quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and John did.
What's your favorite memory or a favorite memory with your kids?
I don't know. There was a grape vineyard on the east side of the driveway, and we pushed it out with the bulldozer.
Yeah.
I remember that Carl wanted to drive the bulldozer, so he did. He was just a little kid.
Was he so excited?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and what do you think made your marriage so successful?
I don't know. I guess Carol was really a good pick. And I guess she wanted it to succeed. I did too. And in those days, in my family, there weren't many divorces.
Mm.
And she had lived through one, which was pretty bad for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she joined the church to marry me. She and her mother were Baptists, and I think her mother said that if she married me, she'd be pregnant and I'd be drunk. That's kind of the way it turned out. But she took instructions from an older priest in downtown Topeka.
Mm-hmm.
There is a church. I don't remember the name of it now. That's where she took instructions. And she joined the church. And has been a faithful Catholic ever since.
That's sweet. She's the best. I had another question. How long have you and Grandma been married?
65 years this month.
That's awesome. And you were in the 11?
Yes.
Was that a surprise for you?
No.
No? Was it a surprise for Grandma?
No. No, I think Carl sent it in to the 11. Our 60th anniversary was in there also.
That's cool.
So nearly every issue we're in there.
Yeah. So popular.
Yeah.
The paparazzi are everywhere.
Yeah. So I think your dad would want to go home.
Yeah. He's falling asleep.
Really?
Yeah, look at him. You did an hour's worth of
That's
talking.
enough.
Good job. Can we do more next weekend?